The Battle of Salineville occurred July 26, 1863, near Salineville, Ohio during Morgan's raid in the American Civil War. It was one of the northernmost military actions involving the Confederate States Army. The decisive Union victory shattered John Hunt Morgan's remaining Confederate cavalry and led to his capture later that day. Background: in June 1863, Confederate Brig. Gen. John Hunt Morgan departed his camp in Tennessee on a raid with 2,460 troopers, intending to divert the attention of the Union Army of the Ohio from Southern forces in the state. On July 8, 1863, Morgan crossed the Ohio River at Brandenburg, Kentucky, and entered Indiana, in violation of his orders to remain in Kentucky. After a victory at the Battle of Corydon, Morgan proceeded eastward into Ohio, pursued by Federal troops under Brig. Gen. James M. Shackelford. On July 19, Morgan attempted to cross the Ohio River into West Virginia at Buffington Island, upriver from Pomeroy in Meigs County, Ohio. Some of his men did make it across the river and back to the south. However, Union forces under Brig. Gens. Edward H. Hobson and Henry M. Judah captured an estimated 801,200 of Morgan's force, while some 300 under Carl Adam "Stovepipe" Johnson managed to cross upriver. General Morgan and the remaining 400 men of his command escaped, cut off from the river crossings. When another attempt to ford the river failed, he headed north, eventually reaching Columbiana County, still hoping to cross the Ohio River at some point and head back to the south. His route took him through a number of terrified villages, including Moorefield, Harrisville, New Athens, Smithfield, New Alexandria, Wintersville, Two Ridge, Richmond, East Springfield, Bergholtz, and Monroeville. With his horses playing out and his men emotionally and physically exhausted, Morgan trudged northward while his pursuers blocked attempts to reach the river. The battle and Morgan's surrender. Union General Shackelford continued in pursuit of Morgan, leading a mixed command of cavalry, artillery, and mounted infantry from Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Michigan, and Ohio, as well as the Steubenville militia. Morgan's weary men were isolated, under constant pursuit, and heading deeper into enemy territory. Eventually, Morgan was flanked and cut off by Union forces on July 26, 1863 at Salineville, near Lisbon, Ohio. Badly outnumbered, Morgan attempted to cut his way out from the estimated 3,000 Federals. He lost 364 men in a firefight that lasted no more than an hour and a half. Remarkably, General Morgan and a small number of his men initially managed to elude capture. However, at 2 p.m., they surrendered to Union Marshal George W. Rowe of the 9th Kentucky Cavalry near West Point, Ohio, approximately 8 miles northeast of Salineville. Today, a historical marker commemorates the location of the surrender. Major Rowe later reported that General Morgan, upon first seeing the major and his troops approaching, surrendered to one of his own prisoners, an Ohio militia captain named Birkbridge, who then immediately paroled Morgan and his fellow officers, an act that would have allowed them to return home to Kentucky as non-combatants. Rowe disregarded that surrender, and insisted that Morgan formally surrender to the Union forces, ignoring the paroles. Troops escorted Morgan to Columbus, Ohio, where he and many of his officers were imprisoned in the Ohio Penitentiary. Many of his captured soldiers were sent to Camp Chase and other prisoner-of-war camps in the North. In July and August 1863, Ohio Governor David Todd led an inquiry into Morgan's surrender. Governor Todd concluded that Captain Burbridge was actually James Burbick, a private citizen of New Lisbon, Ohio, who had never served as an officer in the Ohio militia. As such, Governor Todd ruled that he had no authority over Morgan, and that Morgan's surrender to Union forces stood. Superlative dispute. Another Confederate action, the St. Albans Raid, was farther north than the Battle of Salineville. On October 19, 1864, 30 Confederates slipped southward from Canada and raided St. Albans, Vermont. However, they were not an official command of the Confederate Army, but probably connected to the Confederate Secret Service to conduct the St. Albans Raid. General Morgan's place of surrender at West Point is considered to be the northernmost point reached by an officially organized Confederate body. During the Civil War,